Welcome to Scholars Work, You Stay Silent series, where I continue the vital work of the Global Dialogue for Justice International Hybrid Forum. Our mission is to inform the international community about the ongoing persecution of innocent people in Turkey. Since the so-called coup attempt on July 15, 2016, millions have been falsely accused and enormous suffering has been inflicted upon them. While I remain deeply committed to this challenging mission, I also feel both a moral and scholarly obligation to extend the fight for justice to the innocent victims of the war in Gaza, especially children. Just like children unjustly growing up in Turkish prisons, these young lives are not supposed to be part of any conflict. They are quite simply innocent human beings. Another crucial mission I continue is the rescue and care of abandoned and abused animals. I began this journey, this heartbreaking but deeply necessary work in 2021, and have worked tirelessly through the nonprofit organization I co-founded. Our goal is to reach out to animal lovers across the globe and rally support to save these vulnerable lives. Some may wonder why, as an American scholar, I focus so heavily on international crises rather than domestic ones. The truth is, U.S. issues are widely discussed, both at home and abroad. People around the world are constantly updated on what's happening in Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and beyond, from political developments to celebrity divorces, new music releases, movie premieres, even wardrobe malfunctions. In the UK, audiences follow royal weddings, christenings, and palace updates in real time. But when it comes to the mass killings of children in Gaza or Yemen, or children languishing in Turkish prisons, those stories fade quickly because too often politics outweigh the lives of innocent people. People might hear about passing, but we at the Global Dialogue for Justice do more than acknowledge their suffering. We listen, we share their stories, we carry their voices. And yes, even as I speak, my dear friend, a Palestinian humanitarian aid worker, continues his life-saving work in Gaza under a constant threat of death. His bravery and hope humble me every day. I feel a deep obligation to stand with people like him. I too have been shunned for stepping outside boundaries of a traditional scholar, but I will not be silent. I'm not doing this for recognition. I do it for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the innocent human and animal alike who endure suffering they never deserve. I hope you will support these efforts. I hope you'll open your hearts and minds to the voices of the guests and co-hosts I bring into this space. They are the true voices of justice, and they deserve to be heard. Tonight, it is my great pleasure and a tremendous honor to welcome one of the most fearless scholars in the world. His life's work is dedicated to fighting for the victims of injustice and crimes against humanity. Despite being a victim himself of decree-driven persecution in Turkey, he never retreated, never stayed silent, and never let his courage weaken, not even for a second. He has been my mentor since I began my journey at the Global Dialogue for Justice, and has been my inspiration to continue fighting. As a non-traditional scholar, my publications, though still shunned by much of mainstream academia, represent the kind of work I believe in that is relatable to people in the 21st century with how they learn about critical issues. And I'm extremely grateful to Dr. Bayram for believing in me. And in this type of publication that we strive to amplify in this series, the voices of justice who refuse to stay silent. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Bayram Erzurumoğlu. Welcome, Dr. Bayram.
Thank you
How
very
are
much
you?
for your kind words. I'm personally well, but not well in terms of seeing the agony, persecutions, genocides, crimes against humanity, more or less all over the world against innocent people, whether they are in Palestine or Xinjiang province of China or some other places in India or Pakistan or Afghanistan or Syria or Yemen. Well, uh, well, crime against humanity more or less are being committed everywhere, and those aggressors, uh, those oppressors are being supported by supposed to be civilized world or civilized leaders of the world, civilized countries countries of the world. So we are living in quite um, hard times, unacceptable times. So it is not easy for sincere people to feel well and rested. So I don't feel well uh, for uh, for the agonies of innocent people all around the world. I am sure those people with conscience feel the same like me. Thank you very much, Merjina.
Dr. Baram, you know that it's really hard what's going on in the world today, and it's they need people like us who are able to speak. And even though it is really hard, I think people will be inspired by the continuing work, the continuing effort. And it's personally really not easy to be facing the camera and doing this work, you know. But I think it's necessary because every time we speak, people learn. Just like what I said in my introduction, when a president of the United States speak, the whole world can have access to that. But when we speak about children who are imprisoned in Turkey, when
Yep.
I was in Tbilisi, Georgia, and when I was in Munich, Germany, and I speak about it, and I ask students and people, they don't know. They say, "What? There are children imprisoned in Turkey?"
Yep.
They don't know these things. And so I think my work, our work here, especially at the Global Dialogue for Justice for in its 6th year, and I was going to ask you, I mean, I think we have stepped up a lot, but I was going to ask you the upcoming Global Dialogue for Justice, how can we step up some more? Are we going to bring it? You know, we have brought our audiences so many from the decree-driven persecution. You know, we have every episode, every time we go on, we share them the real stories, the real experiences of people. These are not things and stories we pick up from the news. These are real experiences of people who have suffered from torture, from enforced disappearance, detained, you know. So, what are we going to do next, Dr. Bayram?
Well, let's start from the beginning, Merjina. Well, there was and still is a consensus of hypocrisy and conspiracy against KHK victims in Turkey. You named them as decree-driven victimization. Uh, well, interestingly, this conspiracy against victims uh, across the politics include social democrats of Turkey. You might wonder how come social democrats can support a social genocide against some section of people by political Islamists. But but as we actually try to put this message across to the people of the world every time, and we said this might sound unbelievable, but it is real, and this is real too. I will explain why or how this happened and how come this could be so real. Well, that is simple because in their own words, social democrats of Turkey uh, uh, actually expressed that. This is in their own words, not my words. Okay, they say that there was and still is a historical animosity between social democrats and Islamic groups in Turkey. Interestingly, a political Islamist government is in power, and supposed to be some, let's say, cultural Islamist, or actually not. I wouldn't call them all cultural Islamists, but at least sincere, honest, peace-loving people who do not support the present political Islamist government uh, uh, are being targeted, and they're being targeted, and they're targeting persecution are being supported by uh, social democrats or Turkey. Well, they they say that they've got an issue with, let's say, supposed to be Gülenist movement or some other Islamist group. So that being in that mind mode, they readily both subscribed and supported the political Islamist government's story, uh, and well, joined their genocidal actions. Uh, well, how do we know it, or where how did we get to this point? Well, we learned this recently, to be honest. Just 1 or 2 months ago, okay, people of the world may know that mayor of Istanbul, elected mayor of Istanbul, um, Ekrem İmamoğlu, was arrested for terrorism charges, for being danger to the state security, for being high-level corruption. Well, the government propagandized all those things. What happened to KHK victim is happening to now mayor of Istanbul, whether you believe me or not, happening to uh, uh, uh, Republican People's Party members, Republican People's Party mayors these days. They are being arrested, handcuffed, and put in public display in rows. If people do some Google research, they will be able to see their uh, forced marches in handcuffs by policemen walking by their sides, and declaring that they had done almost more or less all crimes, including terrorism, supporting terrorism, being danger to society, being danger to the state, high level of corruption, endangering the state security, and that. You wouldn't believe what the government is claiming it for the mayors and managers and heads of People's Republican Party now these days. Okay, so being put in this position recently, they actually confessed how they joined political Islamist parties' social genocide against KHK victims. Let me inform you what the chairman of the Republican People's Party, Özgür Özel, told the public in a press conference on 28th of March 2025 after the unlawful arrest and imprisonment of the mayor of Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu. The chairman, Özgür Özel, announced to the public that after the events of 15th of July 2016, Erdogan asked for help and support from their party. Interesting. I'm reading these messages from his press conference, okay? Erdogan asks Republican Party leaders by saying that your party's connection in the world are quite strong, especially in Europe probably, and probably Western world or social democrats of the world. Erdogan say, let's all tell the world about the treacherous event in Turkey, and let's announce this failed coup attempt was against democracy by supposed to be Gülenist movement, and the government was genuinely trying to restore the democracy in the country. These words are not mine. These words are uttered by Özgür Özel, head of People's Republican Party. So then they did exactly what the government has asked them for them to do. So until the political Islamist government started to target elected mayors of Republican People's Party, they blamed deaf or speechless persons. They acted that there was no injustice. Actually, there was no injustice in the party. The political Islamist government was fighting terrorism or terrorists, and I am one of them, as people who are following your programs might know. I am an academic, by the way. Would like to explain for them that I am not a terrorist. I am an academic. Okay, but I was accused as being one of them, like the mayor of Istanbul. Okay, mayor of Istanbul is no terrorist. He didn't support terrorism. He doesn't support terrorism. I don't think he joined in any conspiracy against the government or against the country. But like all authoritarian governments do, he was considered as a threat for the survival of this autocratic government, because the mayor of Istanbul's popularity is quite high. If he is nominated for the presidency, public surveys show that he is highly likely to be elected as the next president. So he was considered a threat to the survival of present political Islamist government. That is why he was being accused for all sorts of things, like KHK victims. Now, People's Republican Party leaders felt obliged to confess their conspiracy against us. And this is no secret. I gave you the date of the public press conference, 28th of March 2015. Please, whoever wants to find out, they may do a Google search and then read the announcement by the head of Republican People's Party, and he was not alone while declaring this unacceptable action. He was with Stephen Löfven, who was the chairman of European Socialist Party in Istanbul. So European socialists are obviously supporting Ekrem İmamoğlu. Obviously, they are declaring that it is unacceptable for his arrest and imprisonment is unacceptable. Yes, we agree. Mayor of Istanbul didn't commit any public crime, but we know why he was arrested. Actually, same thing was happening to KHK victims. We were not terrorists. We were not condoning terrorism. We were not supporting terrorism, but we were targeted for being loyal to democracy, loyal to the law, loyal to the public. No authoritarian regime accepts this sort of reality. They want loyalty to its leader. Like Hitler. Hitler wants loyalty to himself. Loyalty to Hitler is loyalty to the country. Okay, loyalty to, let's say, Stalin is considered to loyalty to Soviet Union. If not, you are not loyal to Stalin, Lenin, Hitler. Call any other dictator or autocrat. Consider their opponents as the enemy of the state, not as not ordinary people who made a choice not to support them. Well, what have been happening to KHK victims up to now? It's more or less it's going to its 10th year. Well, we heard this outrageous announcement from Republican People's Party. This means that this social genocide lasted so long because they did not only support what was happening to KHK victims in the country, they went and visited European countries, diplomats, institutions, maybe European Court of Human Rights. We don't know. They tried to legitimize what was happening to KHK victims. They knew that government was committing crimes against humanity, but for them, well, it didn't concern them because the government's target wasn't themselves. It was some other, the opponents, because those people who were targeted were mostly coming from conservative backgrounds. Yes, some socialists and some other groups were targeted as well, but mostly were coming from conservative background. So Republican Party's leadership thought that these people were not in their voter base, electorate base, electorate base. So they're being persecuted or crushed or oppressed didn't concern them at all. So socialists gave this political Islamist party a free hand to oppress innocent babies, as you said in the beginning, innocent women, innocent children, uh, more or less innocent everybody. How do we know? Because this government claimed that they have been fighting, let's say, putschists. They are trying to restore democracy, but 90% or 95% of people they vote were teachers, academics, doctors, nurses, students, and anybody with their right mind would notice that fighting with teachers, fighting with academics, fighting with lawyers, fighting with doctors, fighting with nurses wouldn't be considered fighting against putschists or fighting for democracy. This political Islamist government was crushing its opponent to strengthen its grip on power. And people's Democratic People's Party leadership was thinking that it was nothing to do with them. They are safe since those who were being persecuted were not mostly voting for them anyway. But we have got a saying in our country that that's unfortunate. Let me say you, it's that saying say that let the snake that doesn't touch you live 1,000 years, but that snake has become uh, bigger and bigger. Now that snake is biting Republican People's Party leadership. Now they are crying wolf. They are trying. They are seeking justice, while they were supporting uh, persecution of innocent people. They didn't do this openly in the past. As I told you, they did it in secret. They sounded that they were against injustice in the country, this and that. But in reality, they gave free hand to this political Islamist party. They went and propagandized political Islamist party in European arena or maybe in America, this and that. Now, when they say there is no justice in the country, everybody is being oppressed, and who would believe them? I'll stop for now, Merj. I'll answer.
Well, Dr. Bayram, this has become a public knowledge now, right?
Yeah.
They cannot get away with it because what happened to 2 million people have been accused of crimes that they didn't commit, and it has gotten so painful for so many people across the sectors of life in Turkey, and they are responsible, and they will be held responsible, and they can we see them, the leadership of CHP, on television and on rallies, and with the outcry of injustice. But like as you say, they are in cahoots with the regime, and if they think that this is not, they can have a free pass in the very near future, they might be mistaken. So my question is, now that has become a public knowledge, what is the action of, for example, there, admirable people, very courageous people like the deputy in the parliament. How is that going to be? You have to stop these people from their
Yeah.
hypocrisy and continued, being out there fighting, so-called fighting for justice, which they were in cahoots to begin with. So, what is the action of the Turkish people?
Well, Turkish people are more or less silenced by the oppression of the government, believe you me, because whomever somehow talks against or does not support the government policies openly, they are either being imprisoned or threatened to be imprisoned, not not just for their own sakes or for their own safety. This government has um, got a habit of threatening anybody acting against them with their family members. Okay, this has been done to KHK victims. For example, suppose that I was targeted by the government. I I am not targeted for my own crimes. By the way, I didn't commit any crime. I'm an academic, as I told you. I'm a free academic, pro peace, pro humanity. Uh, uh, so let's say I'm targeted. I'm not targeted alone. My wife is targeted as well. My children are being targeted. My brothers, my sisters, my father, my mother are being targeted. And these targeting are still going on. Let me just tell you, recently ran operations against some families in Gaziantep province. Uh, if I'm not wrong, some university age girls, students, people were arrested for helping the families of imprisoned victims. Well, this is a crime against humanity, obviously, but this government doesn't consider uh, helping uh, families of imprisoned people as a virtue. The government treats helping families of imprisoned victims as supporting terrorism, trying to uh, trying to let's say uh, give life to the terrorist organization. How come, let's say, supporting a wife of an imprisoned person or son or daughter uh, of an imprisoned person uh, to stay alive could be trying to uh, give life to a terrorist organization? But this government does that. Uh, that is why uh, people of Turkey are being frightened. They most of them know that if they uh, let's say give some even some psychological support to the victims, they could be visited, imprisoned the next day. Some people, if they employ uh, KHK victims or some relatives, they are still being threatened by government officials or sometimes in writing. Just recently, uh, Member of Parliament Ömer Faruk Gergerlioğlu sent me a written document. A KHK victim was being employed as a driver uh, for a private school or a private company. I'm not sure. Uh, the, the the local government office sent an official letter to the company that they should sack that person from his post. Otherwise, they'll they'll take legal action uh, against them. That is why that person uh, was sent off. Look, this is not done 10 years ago. This is done just recently. So the government might claim that look, emergency emergency period has ended. So they are not targeting anybody. They are just enforcing the law. All are lies. All are propaganda. Because uh, emergency decrees are being embedded into law now. So state of emergency is still going on and will be going on for 1,000 years if somebody with a right mind, with a conscience, come and uh, and abolish these law. This is the situation. So we do not expect any action from the public in Turkey. Believe you me, they are being traumatized quite a lot, and that is why the traumatization turn came to the Re- Republican People's Party. Government is now concerned that all opposition are being suppressed enough, so they don't expect any opposition from ordinary people. So it is Republican People's Party's turn to oppress, so that they can declare their uh, their like power forever. And we see the actions in that direction going on now, basically. Thank you very much.
But Dr. Bayram, there is an election coming up in a couple years, right? And so can there be a sign, a slide of hope that there'll be a change in policy and change in government,
Okay.
and the Turkish people will have a little bit of relief from what's happening now? You said for 10 years. And,
Okay.
I
Let me
think
tell
it's
you,
time
Merjina.
for.
Let me tell you, Merjina, as saying Bayan Autocrat. It doesn't matter who votes for whom. It matters who counts the votes. You get me? This government is going to count the votes. Okay? So they are trying to get the country in that position. So why Mayor of Istanbul was arrested? Because he was a sizable opponent. Okay, so suppose that anybody who is in a position to be elected are in prison, and we have got one, only one electable leader who is our beloved leader. Think that, okay, so that yes, there could be some supposed to be election, but in reality, there won't be any elections. Okay, it will be just a appearance, just a show. Okay, so that there was elections in the country, people voted 90%, 80% this, and you might know that all dictators of the Middle East are being elected every 4 or 5 years by 60, 70, 80, 90% of the votes. And it might be no wonder if our beloved leader is elected by 60% popular votes, because they will be counting the votes, not you, not me, not the public. Okay?
Well, Dr. Baram, always believe that there is going to be an end, and there'll be a point in time in Turkish history where people will say enough is enough. And I think that is going to happen. And there are people like you, people like Colonel Demirtaş and Dr. Fatma Zehra Fidan. You are working really hard in your own ways of fighting for justice. And I think the role models like you is really important, especially for the young generation. Because if the problem is not solved right now and they continue to oppress the innocent people, there is a new generation of Turkish who's going to say no. And this is going to be probably, they will lead the country in a different direction where justice is going to return, because justice always come back. So, Dr. Baram, we're going to continue our conversation, especially the Global Dialogue for Justice is returning very soon. And we have so many things to discuss. Like, for example, we are going to elaborate on the topic. This is a very hard to take for people who's been counting on this opposition and learning about their partnership in this genocide. It's going to be hard to take, and we are going to continue to talk about this. And this is why our work here is very, I think it's very special, because we talk about these issues that people don't want to talk about, they're afraid to talk about, or they gave up on talking about, but we don't. And so I think I see the hope, and you inspire me, somebody like me who's not a Turkish, but I know the issue, I feel the issue, and I've known this issue for a very long time, and met so many people who are, like I told you, they just don't get the news from trending on X or Facebook. They are the real voices of justice. They are the ones who are affected and continue to fight. And I will always say, there is hope. And we have work to do. It's very challenging work, but we're not going to stay silent. So we're going to conclude our return right now, and but I can't wait to see you, Dr. Bayram. If you have a message to your people and to the international community, please do so.
Well, I am not without hope. I'm still keeping my hope as high as possible. I will fight against this regime, against injustice, no matter whatever happens. I am still in Turkey and alive and kicking, despite all those heartbreaking words. But I had to tell all those things to the people of the world. This was the reality. I just wanted to point out what the reality is. But in fact, there are still uh, tens of thousands of people and youngsters in this country keep on fighting, keep on resisting, but they're being actually tried to be silenced quite hard. You might wonder, for example, university students just showing their support to the arrested mayor of Istanbul. Hundreds of them are in prison now. But despite that, young generation never backed up. Those lovers of democracy, supporters of democracy in Turkey, will not back up. But we know the dangers, as I told you, that if we blink an eye, this autocratic regime is waiting eagerly to steal any hope, any opportunity to corrupt voting system. That is why I just wanted to the people of the world and people inside that they should be alert to the cunningness of this regime. Basically, people are inside, are doing their best to keep their hopes alive, and people outside of the world should know the reality now that the conspiracy against the KSK victims and injustice in the country went on so long. Even that conspiracy was supported by supposed to be social democrats of this country. So from now on, they should stop believing, stop supporting this criminal regime, and they should do their best in their power to give support to innocent people in Turkey and all around the world, and people all around the world. We shouldn't forget obviously what is happening in Gaza, or people in India, or people in Pakistan, or Afghanistan, or Yemen, or Iraq, or Syria. Well, there are tens of other troubled spots in the world, but but but we should do our best, what we could in our own power, uh, so that we could keep hopes of oppressed people alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bayram. Your message is always powerful and your guidance is needed by people in Turkey and, of course, in other places outside of Turkey and around the world. So I will say goodbye for now, but we will return very soon. And I hope that you will join us again to continue our continuing effort to inform the international community of what's happening in Turkey and, of course, what's happening in Gaza. It's not, when you talk about, like I said, when you talk about kids who are killed, children who are in prison, we're not supporting terrorism. We're talking about kids in prison, babies in prison. We're talking about children being killed. And so people should not, be scared or should not be silent about these events that are so heartbreaking. For tonight's Scholarwork series, you refuse to stay silent. I hope that what you've heard, seen, and learned from our beloved professor has inspired you to step up, to find courage, and never retreat or stay silent to face injustice. This work is not easy, but it demands courage, especially the courage to step up outside our comfort zones. For scholars who may see this publication as falling outside traditional academic norms, know this. This is simply another way to fulfill our commitment to truth, justice, and change. I invite you to support our efforts and join us in this vital mission to inform the global community of the persecution and suffering of innocent lives by refusing to stay silent. Until next time.